Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Final Fantasy VII Remake playthrough. We have finished beating up the Prince of the Ninja Turtles, and we're heading back to the door where Leslie is patiently waiting for us to finish this side quest so that we can finish this main quest.
Always go the wrong way, it leads to goodies.
Oh man, getting turned around in the sewer level, I can't imagine why that would ever happen.
Imagine not having a mini map for this.
Ugh. No.
Oh, wait, that's Dark Souls.
What?
I don't remember the exact name of the area. It's been a couple of years since I last played Dark Souls, but Dark Souls, you don't really have a map.
Oh, yeah.
You kind of have to just.
You don't have a map at
memorize
all
where
in
you've
Dark
been,
Souls?
Where you haven't. No.
Wow. I mean, I guess that
You just have to know where you're going.
that makes Hollow Knight's map system make a little bit more sense then, I suppose, because that game's effectively 2D Dark Souls.
The areas in Dark Souls generally only go in one direction, so you don't necessarily need a map. You just need to know the general direction you're headed for the place you're headed for.
Yeah.
I thought that Dark Souls was effectively a Metroidvania in structure.
Well, yeah,
so.
but it's a Metroidvania kind of in the purest sense, where the areas themselves, they might loop around, but they are linear in terms of structure.
You can just do them in whatever order you feel like.
Sometimes.
Whatever you can get away with.
Sometimes you can. Sometimes they're off in their own separate areas that you teleport to from a hub, and sometimes they loop around into each other. But once you're inside an area, there's a front and there's a back, and you're going through it generally in one direction. I think like one of the reasons Dark Souls 2 or Dark Souls 1 is maybe less well structured than the other. I think it's Dark Souls 1 because the areas loop into each other, and sometimes you have to backtrack through them. Some of the enemy placements don't make sense when you're going through them in the wrong direction.
Does the game, like, give you a hint as to which ones are better to do first or second?
Well, I think like you generally unlock them in a set order too.
Oh, okay.
So you don't. It's not like super non-linear in that sense either.
Okay. Well, I mean, I've had the Metroid isn't actually non-linear argument on this channel before, and I don't think people want to hear that again. So, we'll just ignore that part.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't actually want to hear Ted's bullshit opinions on this.
I don't think I need to remind
Well, people get really confused when they hear the word non-linear. Like,
spilling the beans to those three escape artists.
Open and non-linear. I guess I should refresh then. Never mind. You do get to hear my bullshit opinion on this. Non-linear and open-ended are two different things.
yeah.
If you're not taking sequence breaks into account, Super Metroid isn't really a non-linear game. It's just an open game. You can go a bunch of different places at any given time, but again, not counting sequence breaks. You are expected to do stuff in a specific order. You're supposed to get one item.
You have to go from
get another item.
You have to go from Criteria to Brinstar to Northfair to go back to Brinstar to go back to Criteria to Meridia, so on and so forth.
Maybe Super Metroid isn't the best example because I don't know how many of those sequence breaks were intended or not. I don't know if they fully intended on the wall jump to be as broken.
Anything that doesn't involve, anything involving the wall jump has to be 100% intended because that is a mechanic that the developers intentionally put inside the game. Anything involving glitches or stuff like mock ball or like short charges with the speed booster are not intended. And if you break the game that way, that is unintended. That is a sequence break.
Yeah, so like, I don't know that game as well as some other people, but like, yeah, generally speaking, most Metroidvanias, you're expected to get item A, which opens to item B, and so on and so forth. Sometimes Area D is just there, and you can walk into it, but there's not really a lot you can do until you get those later stuff. That's what I mean, is that it's open, but it's not really non-linear. You have to do stuff in a certain order. Again, unless if you're breaking the game, but that's like saying...
Yeah, because there comes to a point where every area has like a hard lock until you get a specific upgrade.
Again,
like even with wall jumping and all that.
That's part of why I liked Hollow Knight so much, because that game really is non-linear. Like, you can do almost anything in that game in any order. After like the very earliest parts, you know.
That's a long
And
game.
it is a long game too, but
Yeah.
it was really nice because it's the first Metroidvania I'd played in a really long time that felt like that.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of the very few Metroidvanias I had played that felt more like a Metroid than like a Castlevania. You know, like it feels a lot like the original.
I get what you
Metroid,
mean. Yeah, yeah.
In that it's just
Like environmentally speaking, and how you progress
yeah,
through the world.
it feels a lot like the original Metroid, which is really cool. I know that they're aiming more for a Dark Souls vibe than anything else, just because you can tell by the way that game is built that it's trying to be Dark Souls in many ways. But you know what, it works. So
Meanwhile, on screen, we're literally kicking Abzu's ass for a second time.
oh, I
It's,
wasn't even looking at the screen. I forgot that he was there.
Oh, we're doing a 7 commentary.
We're in the
What?
sewer
Yeah.
level, all right. Give me a break.
Yeah, but now we got like environmental hazards, like steel crates, benches. Sometimes the little Abzu shots will just take a little wooden chair and do a little lariat.
And Abzu comes in with the chair.
One of the things about the second Abzu boss battle is that it happens in like Don Corneo's secret sewer storeroom or something. So there is actually a lot going on in terms of stuff that's down here. He's got all of his expensive vases and furniture that he can't fit in his mansion down here.
Oh, sorry, Don Corneo. I just broke all of these crates with your fine china in them.
Oh yeah,
Oopsie
half this
doopsie.
stuff is destructible, and the boss will eventually break it. But you have to watch out for it because, like, as you could see there, the furniture and stuff in that particular area formed a U shape, so you can get cornered inside these pockets of random goods. But it's like, it's such an out there detail that, like, not only does Don Corneo have an excess of furniture like stacked up against the walls in his stupid gaudy mansion, he has even more of it down here in this storeroom, all packed up in crates, like it's the frickin' tutorial area in Tomb Raider 1 or something.
He's probably like a retail therapy kind of guy, you know, when his day just isn't work. Okay, that sewage flow looked oddly bad for this game.
The water effects and the water effects in the PS4 version are pretty bad. I'm actually looking forward to the PS5 version where they'll probably do that stuff better.
Hopefully.
You see, I don't really like. I haven't been looking too hard at the footage for the PS5 version of this game. It's probably one of those things, though, where if you were to show me the PS5 version, a screenshot or a video clip of it on its own, or you were to show me a PS4 clip of it on its own, I wouldn't really be able to tell the difference. But obviously, if you were to put them side by side, then I probably would be able to.
That's usually why they do that when they do the whole upgrades thing.
Yeah, no, because normally my favorite sort of comparison videos is when they will show the PS4 version and then they will start slowly fading into the PS5 version, which I think highlights the differences better, if there are any.
Yeah. Although, as far as I can tell, the biggest thing that people love about the PS5 is load times more than anything else.
Yeah.
Yes.
The PS5 and Series X are so fast as far as getting games going, it's amazing.
I've been playing some games on my solid state drive lately on my PC. I emphasis some games because I've got one of those PCs that's got a huge regular hard drive, but also like a small solid
Dinky ass
yeah,
SSD.
mainly for the operating system. I can fit maybe one game on there at a time, and sometimes not even that. Like,
Time to play Hollow Knight? No.
like
Yeah,
I've got
because the load times are going to be so much faster in Hollow Knight.
I've got the PC version of Cyberpunk, and I can't fit that on my solid state drive. Like, I can't figure out any combination of deleted or uninstalled stuff that would free up enough space on my solid state drive, so
But can it run Crysis?
probably.
Probably. Like, it definitely fit, but can it run it?
Probably. I mean,
Is that still a valid meme?
I
even now?
doubt it.
I just want to make
the
sure.
idea behind Crysis and why, you know, is that it was a really poorly optimized
No, I know, I get it.
game.
I get the origin of the meme. Like, I understand why the meme is made, but it's like, even after so
But
long, is this still valid?
Because here's the thing, though, since the game came out in 2007, I don't know if modern stuff supports it anymore.
It might not, depending on what like hardware it was optimized for. Some older graphics cards or CPUs had functionality within them that was phased out of newer models. Like you would expect the PC version of Mass Effect 1 to run beautifully on today's hardware, but if you had an AMD CPU in your computer, the game searches for a certain thing with its lighting that modern AMD CPUs just don't do. And as a result, like 2 of the game's planets look butt fucking ugly now if you're using an AMD CPU.
I'm assuming that's something they're hopefully going to fix for the remastered version.
Oh yes, definitely. The remastered version just looks better all around. But the big attraction for the remastered version is that the gameplay has been vastly improved.
In 1 or all of them?
In 1 specifically, it was the one that needed the most help. They've well, for one thing, they've made the moon buggy actually good. No doubt taking some lessons from the way it handled in Andromeda, because now it has the Andromeda jet booster.
You know, I hope that they add like some sort of rocket launcher to the moon buggy. That'd be really cool if they did that. You know, add some sort of.
It still has the same gun and cannon. They did change the way the gun works, though. Remember during our commentary, I said that you couldn't shoot at a downward angle because the cannon just wouldn't tilt that way. Now they've just decided it doesn't really matter if the cannon doesn't tilt that way. You can shoot things at a downward angle now. So if your targeting reticle can aim at it, then the game counts it as shooting, even if the actual gun can't point that way. They also, you remember the giant worm, the Thresher Maw that you would fight on some planets? Really. There's this big ass like worm monster that you'll fight on certain planets, usually in a big ass open area that telegraphs the fact that, hey, there's a Thresher Maw here, jackass, don't drive over this area. Well, they changed the way that those Thresher Maws work now so that when they're underground, you can see clouds of dust exploding out of the ground to tell you where they're going, so that they won't just randomly pop up under your goddamn car and kill you. They've also added these tentacle things that pop up out of the ground during the fight, which was a thing that Thresher Maws could do in later games, but they couldn't do in the first game. So generally, they've just made it a more fun fight, which is good because it's like the only fight worth a damn that you ever do in the goddamn tank.
I legitimately hope they didn't fix the physics though, because that was
they
the best
fixed
part
the physics.
Worst
It's
game ever,
weightier.
0 out of 10.
It's
Worst,
weightier.
They should have never put all the resources into the moon buggy cannon.
I went to
The moon buggy has a cannon?
so.
Yeah, you went to do the limit, and then Cloud got papped right before he started doing it and died.
But he was the one who summoned Ifrit, so the moment that happened, Ifrit just pulled out Hellfire and finished Abzu off anyway.
Well, my job here is
But
done.
he didn't do anything.
He didn't do anything.
Did I?
Did I? It just erupts.
Swoosh of cape jumps out of the window. Now I'm picturing Ifrit as Tuxedo Mask.
I mean, the first instance of that joke to me was it who was the celebrity in the monorail episode of Simpsons?
Leonard Nimoy.
It's like my work here is done, but you didn't do anything, did I?
He didn't do anything.
Did I?
Did I? They just
Walks off.
No. He
The Star Trek fades
he gets
out.
Oh, yeah, he
teleported
beams
away.
out.
Yeah, he Starker fades out. Yeah.
Now,
It's like, what the fuck?
when Leslie and Don Corneo both went through the same door, like when Leslie was knocked through the door and Don Corneo escaped through the same door, I halfway expected Don Corneo to murder Leslie. But
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't, considering he already had, he had plenty of opportunity too.
he did drop his gun, though, so I guess he just didn't think it was worth it.
She could still be out.
But it was just one of those moments where I was left uncertain, which I guess is a good effect to have during a cutscene.
Don't give up on her.
Gives you something gives you something that somewhat psychs you out a little right before the boss fight, throws you off a little. It gives you like an odd sense of urgency to beat Abzu so that you see what happens.
We'll meet again.
I have a question. Did Cloud have like
Symbol of reunion.
did Cloud have pierced ears?
She said the R
Wait,
word.
what? Oh
She said
no.
reunion in Final Fantasy.
Wait, what did she say?
Reunion.
Reunion.
Oh,
No.
why is that a word? Like, why is that
And
special?
because the reunion is what happens when all of Genova's cells are drawn back to a single location.
You might be
Oh.
Yes, so the reunion was what happened at the northern crater after Aerith died. and stuff.
Sorry for interrupting you earlier, but what were you saying about Leslie's girlfriend?
What was I saying? Something about Leslie's girlfriend? I don't think I was talking
yeah.
about her. I was talking about just like the boss fight, because you don't know that Leslie survived. The boss fight sort of has this sense of urgency to it, like you want to find out what's going to happen, so you feel a bit more frantic to beat it quickly, which can throw you off your game. And I like it when games pull that kind of thing on you. It happens more often than you would think.
Well, it's a pretty common, like, dramatic pull, you know, it's just like, oh, what happened to so-and-so? You better beat the boss and find out what happened.
Yeah, it's like you get that kind of thing for cliffhangers and stuff in books and movies and television all the time, but it's different when it's in an interactive medium, because the onus is on you to progress to the point where you can find those answers. So there's this big-ass boss standing in your way. Now you have not only the motivation to beat it, but also potentially an emotion that might make it harder for you to do so. Because
it also has to be written a lot differently too, because if it were a movie, they just end on like the boss appearing, and so it's just like that's kind of the cliffhanger moment, whereas it's harder to make a cliffhanger in a medium where you like can just keep on going, you know.
I mean, they did this in the original Final Fantasy VII too. Sephiroth drops out of the sky, impales Aerith, and then you have a boss fight. And like, even though they've made it fairly certain that you know Aerith is dead or dying, you don't necessarily know until after the boss fight that she is dead for real.
But they're one-way tickets.
Also, yeah, speaking of cliffhangers too, I also imagine that when you're playing the game on the original PS1, like physically having to change discs in order to find out what happens next is like a legitimate, like, oh my god, I need to keep playing.
Yeah, it
I
kind of
don't
is.
care about the inconvenience
Yeah, there
about
was
having
a
to swap discs.
when I first got to disc 2, like when I got that prompt, I really felt like I accomplished something. As silly as that sounds,
Yeah.
I really felt like, oh man, I'm really getting somewhere.
Well,
now.
it was better than at the time PC gaming, where you had like those point and click kind of adventure games where if you wanted to go back to the car mechanic, you had to eject the disc and put in disc 5.
Man, you know, Mass Effect 2 did that kind of shit, believe it or not, because
Wait,
Xbox...
released on PC?
Really?
No, not on PC. On PC, you just installed the whole goddamn thing. But on Xbox 360, because they were still on DVDs, Mass Effect 2 had to be on 2 discs. So certain planets were on disc 2, and certain planets were on disc 1.
Oh my god, doing that on a console in the year like 2008 or whatever, oh god, that's awful.
Yeah.
Oh man.
It's like, so Lewis did the exact same thing I did when I first played through. It was like, all right, ready to climb the wall. But I didn't want to see Marley first.
Sure. Sorry, Marley, I can do this on this bench.
You kind of have to, because you have to talk to Marl to finish the quest that you finish in the sewers. So, yeah. Anyway, once you've unlocked all of Don Corneo's hidden stashes and gotten all 3 tiara items, you can turn them into Marl, and she'll sell them to get funds together for the Sector 7 restoration.
Never met her.
See, this is interesting because Marl assumes the angel's a woman. So I think Marl actually knows.
She might, but it also just comes down to the nickname Angel of the Slums. For some bizarre reason, even though like every biblical angel is male, the word angel gets associated with women more than men.
I think that might be more of a pop culture thing. Like, I think
Yeah.
there is some implication that in the Bible that the angel Gabriel is female. I feel like they're more just kind of genderless, really.
Yeah,
'cause-
they're just kind of divine beings.
Well, they're supposed to be.
yeah, but like they all have like most of them have male names. Like Michael, for example, is a very masculine kind of name. But I think it is just kind of a very pulp culture kind of thing where we just kind of have this view of angels as pretty blonde ladies.
I'm just curious if there was any particular wording in the Japanese version, which is why it would be translated as Marl saying she. Because I think the implication is she has at least some idea of who the angel is.
They might have used the feminine pronoun.
Yeah, so it's one of those. It's interesting to think about maybe, but Because when you translate things, you do have to use very specific word choices based on what
pronouns
you're translating from.
Pronouns in translation are half of I would say half of the translation failure in the original Final Fantasy VII was them getting pronouns wrong, because in Japanese most of the time you're not actually even using pronouns at all. You just leave the pronoun as an implied silent.
They don't really exist in Japanese.
They exist.
Well, they do. It is just not used as part of the way their language works.
They're used differently. For one thing, if you're talking to someone, it's actually less impersonal to call them by their name than it is to use a pronoun, which is not how it works in English.
Yeah, because if I'm talking about, oh, that's Lewis's backpack, man, Lewis should pick up his stuff more often. It's really weird that Lewis left his backpack all over the place,
Yeah, like if you were saying...
That's not how we talk in English.
If you were saying it that way in Japanese, it would be totally normal. If you're saying that in English, it just sounds like you're talking about me behind my back.
It's like you're trying to goad me into doing something or
Lewis, pick up your shit.
Final reward.
If you talk like that in English, it sounds like you're trying not to forget that person's name.
You're an extraterrestrial trying to
Anyway,
blend in.
I missed this on my first playthrough, but that note on the floor right there is the note from the... Well, I missed it in my first playthrough, and then I loaded a save file to go back and get it. But the letter from the guardian angel of the slums comes with an extra elemental materia, which is helpful because in the next area you're going to be fighting a lot of robots. So having two characters with lightning elements.
Well, you're fighting a lot of robots, and you're fighting a lot of people. So having both fire and lightning is good too.
Yeah,
people are weak to fire in this game.
Yeah,
sometimes. Yeah.
I mean, I guess humans are weak to fire in general. So like.
The two elements you wanna watch out for against human opponents in Final Fantasy VII are fire and poison. Generally speaking, human adversaries are weak to poison in Final Fantasy VII. But
as well as a 9.
Oh yeah, that's
in the rare instances you actually fought the human in 9.
Yeah.
Well, don't you fight like the soldiers that are Steiner's
You fight Alexandria soldiers once in a blue moon, but that's it.
Yeah,
I think it's only in this.
Yeah, you don't fight them all that often. And like midway through the game, Alexandria is no longer the enemy, so it stops becoming an issue. Like the only major human enemy you fight is Beatrix, who should have been a party member. God damn it! Why did you not make her a party member?
I mean, she is for a time.
Yeah,
but
5 minutes.
She's not like she's got like the temporary party member health bar and stuff like that.
Like Beatrix is such an awesome character, and you barely get to see her use her. So
that's why she's not a party member, because she's too awesome.
It does kind of
something a Final Fantasy IX remake could fix.
I mean, I know that people are hopeful for that, but I feel like it's very unlikely. Honestly, I feel like the most likely other Final Fantasy game to get a remake on the scale of Final Fantasy VII Remake is 10. Because I feel like out of the 3D games, that's the other one that's the most popular.
Here's the thing, though. PS2 onward games can still hold up for the most part. Obviously, there's some dated graphical stuff, but for the most part, they can still be considered solid games.
If they did remake Final Fantasy X, they'd probably just give it some new animations and shinier graphics and leave it at that.
Yeah, and I'm speaking as a fan of 10 and 10-2. I don't see 10 getting a 7 caliber remake.
I don't really either. I just feel like it's the most likely one other than 7.
It'll be interesting to see what they do, because you could justify doing the same thing for 8 and 9, because the PS1 games, as much as we love them, they're still PS1 games.
Yeah. But I definitely see 9 getting a remake before 8.
I feel like 8's the least likely out of all of them. Part of me just thinks that if we're talking about Square wanting to make the most money, which of these games is the most iconic? I would say that out of the 3D games, it's 7 and then 10. That's just my guess.
I'd say 9 and 10 are about the same level at this point.
I'd say in 2021, there are enough people who dislike 10 or are apathetic toward 10 that I could see them going for a different one. I could see them going for a different game in the series just because modern views of 10 aren't quite as positive as they were back in the day.
I feel like a lot of that might be a vocal minority, though, because I definitely see a lot of people.
I'm not so sure about that, because people who really like 10's international version.
I I mean, that is also true.
Well,
But
even then, it's not even. Well, I don't even think the regional version has anything to do with it, because most of the time everybody's talking about 10. They're just talking about the story and the characters. Nothing.
I guess
people make fun of 10 a lot.
people do make fun of 10 a lot, but I mean, people make fun of Final Fantasy VII a lot too.
Even fans of Final Fantasy X will make fun of certain prominent aspects of it and just sort of be in on the joke half the time. It's not quite on the same level as 7, where most of the people who like 7 really like almost everything about 7. So, like, 6 and 7 generally get the most uniformly positive reception from their fans, I would say.
6, 7, and I would say 9 at this
whereas
point. 9 doesn't get
9 does, yeah. Although 9 doesn't have quite as big a base, unfortunately.
Imagine liking a franchise where only 3 of the games are considered good. This post brought to you by the Dragon Quest gang. Hi-oh! I'm kidding.
Let me see.
I mean, people like 4.
Oh no, I like 4 too. 4 is my favorite one.
Also depends on the region too. One thing I'm learning about Final Fantasy 3, OG Final Fantasy 3, is that it is huge in Japan.
I don't know why, because that game has not aged well.
All right, Ted, would you be shocked to learn that it has something to do with Dragon Quest?
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. It's like the job system feels very Dragon Quest. I just think that as a game, it's not structured great. Like the dungeons on Final Fantasy 3 suck. And it's such an exhausting game to play too. You know, I love having to spend 4 hours going through a dungeon, 7 boss fights, and then a final boss. And if you lose at any point, you have to do the entire thing all over again. Like even Dragon Quest 2 isn't that unforgiving. Like you have to if you die to one of the bosses in Dragon Quest, you at least keep your experience points. You know, in Final Fantasy 3, if you die at any point, you lose all that crap and you have to start all over again. Like Final Fantasy 3 certainly has some redeeming merits. Like the soundtrack's great. And the story is very involved for an NES game, which is, admirable to say the least. But like in terms of structure, I don't think it's aged very well at all. It's certainly better than 1 though. I think that 1 is not good. Like I don't.
I can play 1 though.
You can play it, but I don't think that game is aged well at all. But that's a tangent for another sewer level that I'm sure we'll do later on. So,